try to lease a building that's for sale. The state, we probably would have taken a leap and bought it, except that the state won't reimburse if you buy anything, so we have to lease. So we were very, very fortunate that we found a gentleman who's highly respected, and his wife in our community, Mr. and Mrs. Steve Huffman. They're here with us tonight. Steve is a developer, knows much more about buildings than I will ever know, and has done numerous highly respected projects. So Mr. and Mrs. Huffman have agreed they're going to buy the building. We are planning to lease from them, and it's just amazing. We actually expect to be open, in May? Bert's in charge of strategic initiatives, so he's the logistics guy.
Can you tell them how long y'all plan on being here? You want to share, like?
At least a decade.
Yeah. 10 years. I mean, there's not one-stop shop that they're coming. The VOCA funding is only available for 24 months. Right. But they made a commitment to be here long past that.
Right. And I should mention, because we're Children's Bereavement Center, we deal with children and their caregivers. We do not ordinarily do adult counseling, but we work very closely in San Antonio with the University of Texas, San Antonio. And UTSA happens to have two nationally recognized people who have dealt with disasters. Dr. Thelma Duffy and Shane Haberstroh, the team have been going up to Sandy Hook for the last 5 to 7 years since that disastrous event happened. So they are our partners. We're the primary lessee. We took the lead only because we're more nimble. UTSA, you have to go through contracts offices, and it was holding us up. The original arrangement was that UTSA would be in the lead and we would come in shared space, but the contract it went on too long, and we just decided we need to do this and we can't wait any longer. So I'm really here to just share with you what we're doing, why we want to do it, to assure you that under our name, which has been a very, I would say, protective brand in our community, we plan to offer the best counseling, the best support, and work very cooperatively with the schools. In fact, we have Dr. Joe Avera from our team now working at Floresville ISD and coming down a couple days a week and hanging out at Ben's place at a desk until we can get our center open. So I just want to introduce Mr. Huffman.
I would like to formally introduce our friend, Steve Huffman, and his wife, Janet. As Marion mentioned, this has been a long journey, but I affirm with you that we identified Floresville early on. We feel that the community and the catchment, Floresville is where we chose to be. So we were graciously hosted and looked at many different properties here, and there's one that came to light. We don't have time, even if we could, to build. We feel, as you heard through Marion's words, we're behind the curve. We should have been here and operating many months ago. So if anything, you'll hear from us a little bit of stress of saying, gosh, we should be here sooner. The property was for sale, as Marion mentioned. We didn't quite know as many obstacles that can be placed in the way when good people gather together. Steve and Janet were brought to us. They were introduced to us. We took them on a view of our center in San Antonio. And then tragedy struck yet again in Florida, as you will recall, the horrors of a shooting in Florida. And Steve was on a flight, called us, and when he landed and said, we got to get this done, how can I help? And of course, my response was, I need a center. That's where Steve responded.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is really a special project. So I'm a commercial real estate developer. I do a lot of work in the area of healthcare. And one of the things that we've developed in terms of the strategy for the facilities that we build is what we call healing hospitality. How do you get rid of the institutional feel of healthcare? How do you get rid of low drop ceilings, fluorescent lighting, and create some sort of an environment that gives this subliminal message of I feel comfortable here? When Marion and Bert had come to me and talked about what they were trying to do, initially I was thinking about, okay, I've got some ideas on how you can do this, do that, and the other. And there was a tap on my shoulder that said, you need to do this thing. And so now 30 days ago, we went under contract and we're closing on the property in 2 weeks. When we develop our healthcare facilities, one of the things that we really focus on is how do you, like I say, get rid of that institutional feel. And one of the challenges on this beautiful facility, it's a great building, first-class facility, is the limitation on space for the outdoor setting. We developed a facility in San Antonio called the Warrior and Family Support Center, developed a 501c3 and donated that to the Army. And we built a 7-acre healing and therapeutic garden that was recognized as the best healing and therapeutic garden in the country a couple of years ago. And as I looked at this particular project, one of the things that Bert shared with me and Marion shared with me, and they were spot on, is the limitation of space for the outdoor setting. And you can always make things work if we can't come to some sort of resolution of support from y'all. There's a way to make it work. But in a perfect world, if you can picture, I don't know how familiar y'all are with the building or the space, the property line is roughly 15 feet from the edge of the building. And if you can picture kids out there on a slide, or I've got grandkids and I can see them in the swing set, and it just is not enough space. So we don't have a specific amount of space of how much we'd like for y'all to consider allowing us to use in some form or fashion. And we don't have a preconceived notion of how to do that. I know y'all are trying to develop the rest of that property for other types of facilities that increase the economic growth of Floresville. But if you could allow us to have access to some of that space in some form or fashion, 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, whatever the appropriate amount of space is, and we don't have a number on that at this point, what we're doing is we're going through a design process to say, here's what would fit in that area. So what we're asking you to consider is, what I'm asking you personally to consider is to join the team. What these folks are accomplishing and have successfully done in San Antonio, down in the valley, and here in Floresville is going to be huge. It'll be phenomenal, not only towards the healing process for those kids, those families, but I think also from a business standpoint, it's going to continue to contribute to that area that you want to develop. It'll bring activity over there, synergy, and I think you'll find whether it's other organizations like your folks you're going to be visiting afterwards, it'll show activity over there that, in addition to what you've already got in place. So what I'm asking you to do is to consider allowing Children's Bereavement Center to have access to some incremental space, which would be, I guess, on the north side of the property, for use as a playscape, or for us to put in the playscape to support them. But it doesn't stop there. I challenge every one of you in this room to reach out to your friends, your families, to, in some way, some form or fashion, other than just this space, to support what these folks are doing, because they are playing a key role in the healing process, and I'm just really excited to be a part of the team, and I hope you all will be a part of that as well. So, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Tom, I don't know, maybe I also term, how can I speak upon this? I mean, I've probably been both sides, work with the school, how does that work? I don't want to cross any boundaries. Did I work with him on the school side of my job as a school social worker? No, I'm just making sure, just asking for. Okay, then I just want to double check. Okay, then how did you come to 15 foot?
That is not.
Yeah, is that something that you just put, Tommy?
15 feet has been discussed in several meetings,
Yeah.
more than any other figure, and
Is it the
so
15 feet
Steve
they
is
already
right.
own, or the 50 is?
Let me help you, Tommy.
Okay.
Tommy and I also met with him last week. It was a very good meeting. And the 15 foot is actually the setbacks.
Oh, yeah,
And you can't build a permanent structure, but you can't put a playground.
yeah.
Something that's removable.
Mhm.
And so that's where that number came from. Initially, they were going to produce a design, and they sure will, I'm sure,
Mhm.
to see if they need 15 feet or
Or
20
more.
feet or 23
Okay.
feet. But they were going to lay out a professional design. The meeting with them was very good. Mr. Huffman and I actually know a lot of the same people.
Mhm.
Some are good, some aren't as good as others, but he did, he passed the taste test. Yeah, he's very well respected in the medical community as well as the building community. I can test for that.
Anytime anyone comes building forward, we're here to help them.
And
We're interested.
of those lots are 200 feet, so, you know,
Let's make sure, because I know it's in our code, I know it's not permanent structure, but you know, for the fire and safety, you get like a 5-foot offset, some things like that.
I think
Make
they
sure
could
we're following all that.
perhaps get a variance or something like that, but I think there's a way to work around
Yeah,
it,
okay.
once they come with their layout.
Okay.
I think
Well, I
that's
just like to
something
leave it
play
open
with.
to the layout, not just stick to a number.
Well, exactly.
I have a question, and ironically, I live on Paloma Drive, so I just wanna make sure I got the right corner.
Okay.
It's right across from the post office.
That's a little house, cause I think we looked at that too.
Yes.
Lease, when I was looking at a new place, temporary
Yes.
place for City Hall, he would lease it to me, she would list it.
Yeah.
So that's that little skinny house, that
He
little
bought
skinny
that. It
building.
used to be a land building.
On that corner.
The southeast corner of Paloma
And, Eagle, I never really go that way, cause I go the other way, but yeah, that one to go way to the veteran. Okay, so you're asking
It's kind of a yellow
to
house.
overflow
Mhm.
in the back of it.
Yes.
correct on the north side, which would be towards the VA.
So it'll be lot
Which
number
is lot two.
Lot two.
So you're saying that they would do the 50,
Whatever it is,
whatever
whatever
it
design
is,
comes back,
to do that.
and then work with the next presentation to make sure that we all work together. If you
Yes,
read
that I
the
guess.
plans, you can see some other stuff we talked with.
So that's the sole lot, but the rest of these lots are still available, is that right, Mr. Baker? The rest of the lots, you know.
Well, 4 and 5 are, but we're
4 and
talking
5.
with,
Well, I know,
with
but I mean,
whatever's
like-
left of 2, 1, and 6 with our next presentation.
and, you know, Monty has asked for and has maintained, they need 2 acres. If you look on my calculations,
It's 2.3.
giving him the remainder, after 15 feet, giving him the remainder of those 3 lots is
2.36.
2.36. So we've got the ability to give the bereavement center more than 15
Yeah.
feet, because we've got 0.36 feet that Monty doesn't have to have, you know, for his health and dental clinics. So, you know, we can, the board can adjust 15 feet to 20 or 25 or 30.
So
That was
then
just-
you would still sell lots 4 and 5.
Yes.
And yes, and we're hoping, or I'm hoping that we can continue the sourcing of medical dental for those lots. And then we have, I think, an unbelievably unique community asset.
You would need to replat lot
Yeah.
2.
It has to be replanted for
We
sure.
did very part with the county and the
So
city.
that you could, whatever the reference is. My only thing is, I know that y'all haven't decided what are you gonna do with the next, but lot 2, you'd have to think about there need to be some type of barrier. And I'm just suggesting, Mr. Developer, that if you, I don't like to fence children in or out, but I'm just saying because you need to be able to provide some type, because the next development on, if whatever happens, lots 2, 1, and 6 are gonna be a commercial development. So
Well, that's what
you have
maybe
some
we
type
could
of
talk
barrier.
about. I see right here where it says staff parking, so I know they have a lot of parking and a little bit of parking in the front, so I mean, maybe whoever comes, they can work with whoever wants to develop the other part. Maybe they do like a shared, like parking lot, maybe they can share when this facility's closed.
His
on the
parking is in the
weekend.
front, your parking is in the
Our
front.
parking's in the front.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're gonna do a
want-
kid thing in the back, you'll do like a little festival. If they design their building appropriately, maybe they have like a little park in there and they can do like festivals to share it. I don't know, I'm just,
And I read somewhere where part of what Steve's talking about as far as the design is an important element and the proper use of materials in fencing. So, you know, I don't think any of us here are qualified to grasp what that is for bereaving children, but it may be a wooden fence, it may be something they can see through. You know, I think we don't want to put any restrictions on them at this point,
Oh, no.
except some demarcation to keep your kids in that area, but it may be whatever is most useful for your children
those
client.
are-
I was just thinking in reference to, there's a barrier or buffer that you have to do for ordinance in reference to any commercial developments. Backing off, I'm just speaking to that they would need to definitely have some type, the city would require some type of physical barrier.
And we're,
That's for a permit.
that's what we're contemplating is a
Yeah,
fence there
and
of some
then,
form
you
or
know,
fashion.
but we have to be, you know, cognizant of the fact that the commercial people, we configure their lots. because they have to have certain set, 15 feet off or whatever there for their
For frontage
construction,
structure.
so, but I think, it sounds like, parking lots.
So, Ben, what's the maximum amount that can be put for?
Well, I
It's
think
not
we
needed for
just,
6 and 1, and what's the maximum amount of space?
I think, they said they needed 2 acres, but I think we can all work together as a team on this because this is something we think of the community, right? We want to help the people in need, we want to help the people that are hurting. So if we come together and we say, okay, it's an action item, say we work together on the condition that not only that we work with FEDC, but with the Wilson Community Health Clinic on their thing, so it all comes together and flows. Of course, they're gonna be in a month, they might be in here in 2 years. So, they got a little bit of time to design that, so I
I
think that.
understand that, but what would be the maximum amount
I think.
other than 15 feet?
Oh.
What's,
Like on your playground, on the center normally, what would you suggest, Bert?
What,
No, we could-
optimum?
Like you're
We have
high in the sky,
15.
like what,
If I were to pause and pray, 30 feet.
30 feet additional.
15 in addition to.
so 45 total from the building, so
Yes, sir.
15 plus
Yes,
30
sir.
foot.
As we've looked at our space, which we have, graphic that you would have seen, total 45, and absolutely, Tommy, security is our priority,
Mhm.
especially children that their stability and their security has been rocked. So therefore, our doors are always locked. Children even note as we're locking doors as guests come in and out, and absolutely, it will be fenced. What we want to do is complement the center structurally as well as visually, but safety is how that would be the most important issue of that, which, yes, it will be a confined area.
So I just say, I,
oh, okay.
the key is just, how do we want to go about allocating the land to them?
They need to get their layout first to see what they want to do.
But I mean, I wouldn't mind so they can move forward, making a motion to give them an extra 30-foot contingency along their plan. Maybe they may need 35, maybe 40, but let's put it at 30 foot right now under the,
Is that a motion?
yeah, make a motion.
I second it.
Okay. To give them that till they come back to the plot.
Yeah, to give who?
The
Yes,
give the agreement, so the children's agreement center.
They are the
No,
The developer.
the developer.
Because he's the one that's owning the
But
property.
can they lease it from us, for that part?
Yes.
From the 501c3?
Yes.
Like say, and then
You
we,
can do any type of, I think, any type of lease into an agreement for that.
So is it better to
Because
take-
otherwise, if you want to condition it
Yeah.
on the bereavement center,
yeah.
you can do it that way. But I mean, they're actually purchasing at
yeah,
this
so
point,
yeah, that's what I
so
was
if they're
talking-
interested in that, but you'd have to have that worked into your agreement. for
Yes.
purchase.
Wait a minute, are we selling 30 additional feet, or
I
are
don't
we saying,
think
okay,
we'd be
we're
selling it.
gonna lease it to the bereavement center?
I would say we, just kind of like we talked about in the past, what we do to help communities around here, so Bereavement Center's a nonprofit,
Right.
so make it, was that $1 a year for whatever, however however the board
But the
feels.
bereavement center doesn't own that, they're not buying the land, he's buying the land.
So it has
And
to-
he's gonna lease it to them for $1 or whatever their
We're talking
arrangement is.
an additional 45 from where we are now.
No,
30.
30
30.
for the property line.
Okay,
I mean, we couldn't do like a nonprofit to them.
I thought we were giving them,
No, it'd be business development.
Not the business development, it'd be to the nonprofit.
I thought we were talking
Steve
15
is
feet
not
plus
a
30.
nonprofit.
No.
No.
No, they
So
have to-
here, can I give you a couple options to
Yeah.
consider?
Yeah.
One would be if you were to give us a ground lease, Huffman Developments, a ground lease for that incremental 30 feet. And that way you still have control of the property. Because for me, I don't care. I mean, the main thing I care about is to make sure that they have sufficient amount of space. So if you just wanted to do a long-term lease, a ground lease, that's perfectly fine with me. If you wanted to replat the land and convey that to us, that's fine as well. But whatever's easiest for y'all, I can work with y'all. And also, I would think that if you really wanted maximum flexibility, is that rather than replatting that space and putting it over there, I'm negotiating against myself, but that's okay. So rather than replatting that space where you have just a strip that gets added to ours, if we wanted to do a meets and bounds description of that strip of land and say that establishes your ground lease, I'm fine with that as well.
Could you do that, and then under the condition that if they ever sold it, that they'd have to negotiate a price with us for that extra?
Yeah, because if you do it as a lease, you can also do it contingent upon
Yeah.
the tenant.
Yes.
Being that, and when the tenant is no longer there,
Right.
it can revert back
To the
SBW.
Or he can buy.
Ability of that being with the playground.
Liability we would want on the property, the lessor, the lessee.
Yeah.
And we're accepting that
So if
responsibility
she could
for
write
us.
that motion kind of how we talk, that'd be my motion.
That's what you have attorneys.
That's why we gave her.
That's why she's a smart girl.
Why?
Okay, so you're just approving, yeah, y'all are approving that you want to enter into a lease agreement for the property that they need, and then once
Let's-
that's all configured, we'll have to come back. to
And
the
as a group, we figure out what's the best lease agreement, whether that be.
But Ben, what you don't understand is, he came here to buy that, you just gave it to him.
That's
Is there any more land you're giving?
Hey, I never said we were good.
He's young at the real estate business, but he will learn.
I'm there to help you, I'm in the helping profession, so.
But
Pay for it.
I'd rather play for the playground. Come on.
So we're flexible. I mean,
Just make sure Tommy
the
tells
main
them
thing
about
is
the
if we
sign.
can get that extra 30, access to that 30 feet, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So that's Tommy's job to negotiate the price. My job is to make our
Well, you
job.
already gave it away.
I didn't do it.
And I did hear that comment of the cost of the playground too, which is on my shoulders.
Yeah, yeah.
It will be phenomenal.
So,
Thank
is
you.
there a motion?
I make a motion, what we were talking about to move forward.
I think we need some help with our attorney.
And just to be clear, we're leasing a good 30 additional feet to
Up
Mr.
to, yeah, I would say
Up
up to
to-
a
up
motion.
to-
Up to 30
Lease
feet.
up
Up
to
to
30
30,
additional feet.
Mr. Kaufman?
Huffman.
Okay.
Under the condition that's gonna be used for the nonprofit of the Children Bereavement Center as a leasing.
And this is for a 10-year agreement?
How long is your agreement gonna be with,
10 years.
10 years.
Okay, it'll be 10. The other thing would be, I think if and when it's still ever changed and what's something else, that property reverts back to FEC or it's sold appropriately with that property, we receive our percentage of the
With
proceeds.
market value.
I would say that should be part of the motion, that as long as it's serving as the Children's Bereavement Center.
Yes, that's what we
And the
said.
That's
actual
perfectly
lease
fine by me.
document would need to come back to you.
Yeah, so we have to have a copy of the lease document if you don't mind, and then making sure all the appropriate insurance.
And Steve, you're going to close on the building before this plan comes back?
Yes.
And then we finalize it, right? Otherwise, I would make it contingent on you purchasing the property.
And that's
But
fine.
you'll have
We're
it.
closing
They've got
in 2 weeks.
Okay.
You want to help them with this motion?
Depends on Ken, she was at a lot.
We have a motion,
I have a
we're
motion.
working on a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Motion to enter into a lease agreement.
Most conflict motion.
For up to 30 foot of lot number 2, to be leased to Mr. Huffman.
Lease or purchase? Or would it be lease?
um,
Lease.
Lease.
Okay.
Lease to Mr. Huffman for the purposes of encouraging and assisting the tenant of the
Sure.
bereavement center for the term of 10 years for them to utilize as playground space. And it will have a reversionary clause within that lease agreement. And that agreement will come back to the board prior to being executed.
Yes.
Under condition they have we get a copy of the agreement and the proper insurance.
Motion complete.
I second the motion as stated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As stated by our
Attorney. We have a motion by Ben, second by Sherry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Peace be with you.
Tommy, good luck, Tommy.
That's a good one.
Welcome to Floresville.
Thank you very much, we really appreciate it. And I hold all of you at this table to that second piece of this deal that wasn't negotiated. All of y'all need to make sure the community steps up and stands behind us.
And then in your future commercial development, we'll welcome
I'm really,
anything we can do to help. That's what the economic
I'm
development
very
is here
interested
for.
in the remaining parcels we have over there. I'm trying to build synergistic medical communities. My startup community has 190,000 square feet of probably 18 buildings, medical centers, something comparable to that. So I was really intrigued with what you got over there.
Yeah.
From my conversation
What we
with
need.
Steve and Bert, I think Steve's got something up his sleeve. you know, they-
Well, I'd like to change something.
I mean,
Understand, because medical condos,
I don't think it's on the agenda, Tom.
Tom, don't give away our secrets, we don't know their cities.
I think we'll see him again.
But I'm exempt because Steve gave all the other cards, not me, so good.
Oh, yeah.
Thank y'all very much.
You met with
Really
him,
appreciate
appreciate
the
the
support.
Ray.
Thank y'all.
In respect to other presenters that so kindly listened to our presentation, I'd like to stay.
So for me,
So,
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna stay.
Going down. Item number 10. Discussion possible item, Mr. Money Small, if that's supposed to have said. I'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Board. It's an honor to be here again. As we gave you our presentation last time, what we're looking at doing, and that's the Wilson Community Health Center. And we are your medical, your dental, and your behavioral health home as well within that. That's what federally qualified health centers do within there. And our goal, like I said back then, is the same it is today. And that is to be able to do what we did in Pleasanton, where we have a facility there. We have 7 medical providers working there, and that's what we want to have. When I say medical providers, I'm talking about internal medicine physicians, pediatric physicians, family practice physicians, and nurse practitioners within there. And also we have the behavioral health with community health within there. And Tommy gave me this plat to look at, and we have the bereavement center. I think we'd be great partners within there for what we do. In fact, we even have a pediatrician on board already with us at Floresville here. So I think that'd be a great one. And looking at that, and looking at what Tommy and I was looking at, and what we've discussed within there, and you never know what the future might hold and what you might need, and 30 feet may seem a lot today, and tomorrow all of a sudden 30 feet down within there. And we're willing to go back and relook at this here and see how we might be able to redo this within there, and to be that within there. Because I can see a lot of possibilities within there, within that. What we talked about, and maybe something a little bit different within there, after looking at it more within there. One of the things that Tommy mentioned to me, and I wanted to bring that up, because he gave me the business park restrictions within there. So I reviewed the restrictions within that, and one of the things is the masonry, the 75% masonry that needs to be there. Well, Maria has a picture of the facility we built in Pleasanton that she'll be passing around. And through that, you can see what we do, the masonry on the bottom 3 feet, and then the rest is not within there. So I hope that's not a major sticking point. It's the same concept that we're building for our Carnes facility that we're looking at. It's the same one within there. And that was under item F within there that he pointed out. And then of course G, like I mentioned last time, it's going to take us some time to do that. It's a 2-step process. One is securing the land. That's what we're hoping to do today within that. And the second step is securing the funding. I've already talked to one of our funders within that. They're interested into it, which is good. We've already talked to USDA about the loan process within there, so we're already into that. But it's going to take time. And the other thing that Maria is going to hand out is a time frame to give you an idea about how long it would take to do that within there. This is the same time frame that we did for our Carnes project, basically, within there. And once we got the land secured, we got the loan secured, now we're moving into the time frame within there. Those were the concerns that we were talking about with Tommy and stuff within there.
I'm sorry, I'm at a disadvantage. What is the time frame today? What is the time frame you're referring to?
Well, our restrictions, have a much shorter time frame, and that's why I've asked Monty to explain, which the spreadsheet gives us, and the timeline is really important, because I said, the board is reasonable about things, and if it's impossible for you as a nonprofit to meet all these short-term goals, tell us some interim steps, and then the board can say, okay, they've done this, they've done that, we're making progress, and not wait until 2 years and say, hey, we don't have an improvement, kind of like the bowling alley, and we don't want to do that again.
And I think our action speaks for what we do. I mean, you look at the Pleasanton site that we built that, it took us a few years to do that, but we were able to do that within that. And the same thing for our Carnes facility as well. I mean, our Carnes facility, we've been working on for a long period of time, and it's coming to reality today within there. So this is kind of like, I mean, those are the two main things. Once you get the funding and you have the land, because when you go to funders for foundations and stuff, and you ask the foundations, you know, for funds for this, they say, what is the community doing for you? That's the first thing they say within there. Like when we went to Carnes, we had the city of Carnes that would gave us the land there for $1 a year for, still happening right now today within there, We went to McMullen County, we asked McMullen County, what can you do? Well, they went out and bought a house for us, they renovated it,